Okay, here we are. Finally. um, oh, lovely. Can you say something?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. Well, I'm glad you're here, Canine. You have no audio.
I have.
You have no audio.
All right. So you.
Something is wrong.
Okay. Open up the browser in OBS.
Can you hear him now, Canine?
Hello, I'm here. You actually should be able to see my bar going
now.
up and down. There we go. Life is good.
Well, I guess we get to start over.
Oh my God.
This has been an interesting evening. Okay, you're loud. I can fix that.
Yeah, you can turn me down.
Yes, I can. There we go.
And this is all my fault.
It is not your fault. Is that better,
K9? I'm talking now. Can you hear me? I love it. There, loud. Okay, I see charismatic K9.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, lovely.
So, for those who are just tuning in,
okay, I guess we're going to start over. So, this is Wes Allen, DM Tales. I've done all this before. Technology.
This is why I'm not on Twitch. I'm not cool enough to pull this off.
Yeah, so there's a thing about being on Twitch that you just have to get used to, and that is that your mistakes are public.
Oh, yeah.
You can't edit them out because you're just doing it right here live.
Stream down and put up VOD over on YouTube. Yeah, it's a lot of fun that way. So yeah, it's a good time. I am so fixated on making it perfect beforehand. Like anytime I'm trying to do something, I'll spend like a week doing nothing else but like one feature, and I won't implement it until I'm done. I used to run communications because for folks that, like, aside from me being DM Tales, like my day job is actually a pastor, and yes. I actually used to run communications for my denomination's region. And so I was paranoid of going out into public and not having something working, and was probably held myself back because if I didn't have anything perfect, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But so this is actually more fun. Especially because it's not my job. So I'm not worried about it at all.
Oh, I'm retired, so nothing's my job. Anyway, all right. Since we're starting over, tell us a bit about yourself and how did you got into gaming in the first place? And I've heard all this, but let's do this again.
So I got into gaming probably around 1980. My cousins were playing Moldvay Cook Basic Expert. I rolled up a character, a thief. I don't have to say human thief because in Basic and Expert, if you're a class, you are a human other than Elf, Dwarf, Halfling. And got home, looked to my dad, and went, "Oh, we're going to go buy this game now." And for the life of me, I do not know why my father actually went along with this. But we drove around looking at different stores because we had no idea where to pick this game up. This is 1980. This is the Old West, right? Mm-hmm. And we went to this little village mall. I think I know about where it was. It does not exist anymore, but it's near Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, and picked up the basic set. And a couple weeks after that, I got the expert set, and off I went and never played. Only read. My grandfather would humor me and go on an adventure every now and again, but I never played the game. And I had picked up so many games that whole time. I was just an avid collector. Had first edition of Gamma World, had Marvel Superheroes, had both editions of Top Secret, and then got TMNT. One of my friends got Shadowrun, and just I was an avid collector of these games and would read them constantly, but I never had a group to play. It's pre-internet. It was not easy to find a group if there weren't people around back or near you back then. And so I collected and stopped playing in the 90s and came back in the pandemic.
When did you actually play for the first time?
First time I actually played. So I wanted to get back in the 2000s, but I had no money. My wife was not working. I'm a pastor. That tells you how much I was making, because I'm in the Northeast. The pastors, we're not like in Texas. I'm not like Six Flags Over Jesus Church. And so we had like literally no cash. I just couldn't buy in. And this was right around, I got here 2003. So I've been in this church 20 years. And so it was right around when D20 came out, the 3.0 system and the original OGL. And so there was a game store that was right up the road, and I was looking around and I'm looking at all these games and the editions that I wanted. And I saw there was actually a Babylon 5 D20 game, and I really wanted to get it and play. And I had neither time because we had 2 young kids. I had no money, couldn't play. One of my friends, maybe mid-aughts, invited us over, and we did a 3.5 adventure, which was my first time using even being aware of ascending AC, which I thought was really cool. And that was the first session that I played, and that was mid-aughts. And then until the pandemic, I never played. So what happened was when the pandemic hit, I am naturally an introvert, and I'm looking around going, I had a couple of different problems. I had one is my older daughter and my older son were here in the house living. My daughter was in college and was working at Chipotle at the time. My wife is a teacher, so she's trying to teach at home. I'm a pastor. I'm trying to keep a church and people alive, because people were really stupid during the pandemic.
Yes.
And we had a 3-year-old, because I have a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, and now a 5-year-old. And so that was fun. And I knew so I didn't have any time of isolation, but I also had no real time to socialize. And I know if I didn't do anything, I'd implode. So I actually went on Facebook. It's like, okay, listen, I need a game now. And a bunch of my friends, we had used to run a message board, a couple of folks that I went to college, and we set up a game on did communications through Discord. That chat is still going. And my one friend ran us through a 5e game for about 8 months at the beginning of that. Probably about August or so, I started going, I want to run a game. I think I want to run a game. And I thought it would have been fun to get my neighbors to play, because we're very good friends with our neighbors, and try to get my wife to play, who is a nerd and does not want to admit it. And so I was going to create a game, and this was right when like Dungeon Draft was coming out and Foundry was coming out. I was like, Foundry, I still use Foundry as my VTD because it works the way I think. Like I tried looking at the GM side of Roll20, and my brain was having trouble getting a hold of it. Foundry just works the way I think. So I'm like, I'm running this. I'm going to run this. This is what we're going to do. And so I created an adventure that was based on Hallmark movie tropes. Because one of the things my wife and I do at December every year is we open up a bottle of wine, we sit down, and we watch all the stupid, awful movies that come out every December. This is like one of our favorite things to do. It's like our highlight. Like Thanksgiving hits and off we go.
50 movies, one plot.
One plot. Same sets. And so I had created, and one of my friends from a Monday night group said, oh, no. Here's the thing. It's Howl Mark. And so I literally created a logo that looks like the Hallmark logo. That's Howl Mark with like a D&D sword or shield over top. It was a lot of fun. So I ran that adventure from those a one shot, and that they were like, oh, that was fun. And they were ready to do something else. My Monday group shut, or it was like that campaign came to an end of like, well, you want to try this one shot? I'm like, sure. We played that for 2 years. So we got done December last year with that one. 5e it's not my most fun system to play, mostly because I can't get my head around how to make it challenging. There's ways to do it. But it's hard. For me, it's hard. It works a different way than how I think.
I can tell you the best way to do it. The best way to make 5e challenging, it's called Shadow Dark.
Well, Shadow Dark's not really 5e though. I love Shadow Dark.
It's an OSR game built on a 5e engine.
I mean, kind of. It's got the 5e modifiers but it's got roll to cast. It's really, I can't wait. Like, there's shipping. Shadow Dark is shipping.
Oh, I know. I got my email today and I went,
I got this, and I got Brindlewood Bay is probably going to show up this week. I'm hoping.
My 20th anniversary Savage Worlds is going to be shipping soon too.
Oh, you know what? I had just gotten Savage Worlds and that came out. I'm like, I can't do it. And like, so Pinnacle Entertainment, because I had gotten the fantasy supplement for a review. And they're like, Wes, it'll have book ribbons. Because that's like, if you look at my reviews, like everything's like, it's got a book ribbon. It's a winner. It is a book ribbon. I'm happy.
Yep.
And the Pinnacle was like, Wes, it's going to have book ribbons. Like, how many? I think they were like, there's going to be 3. I'm like, oh, now I want this. It's the exact same game. And I just bought this. And I'm not going to just ask for a review copy just so I can have book ribbons. That's just not fair.
Nice thing is it's got all the errata. So
yeah, that's maybe I like Pinnacle's like, did it say, if you ever want to review something else? I'm like, well, maybe in the future I'll look at that. It's Savage Worlds is a fun system. And maybe I'll buy it if I get a windfall of some cash or whatever. That was fun. But during during 5e, when I was running that, I also started seeing talks about OSR, which is more, that's where I started. And I saw all the stuff for basic fantasy RPG.
Right.
And so I actually picked up the book and my mind was blown because I run Mac now, but I ran Linux for my primary operating system for the better part of a decade. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that basic fantasy was open source,
right,
was huge for me. I was like, oh, this is cool. I can get all this stuff. And here's the document. There's a community you can be part of. So that was all really cool. I picked up the book, and the fact that it's so cheap. One of my neighbors, I was like, hey, I'm going to try this system out. Do you want to play? He's like, oh, I want to play anything. I'll play anything. I just want to play. I want to play. I love this game. And then another one of my friends, our wives teach together. I was like, hey, would you be interested in playing a game? He's like, oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I didn't know it. He was a Critical Role fan.
Ah.
And he's like, yeah, I want to play. I want to play. I'm like, sure. It's like, are we playing 5e? It's like, no, I'm going to get this other game. And it's like, you can pick up the book for like $10. Are you interested in doing it? I was like, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And so that's been going on for 2.5 years. So I started with 4 players. A 5th soon joined. 2 of the originals dropped out, and we have 3 others that have come on, and a few other people have cycled out. But it's basically the same group that's been going on for 2.5 years at this point. And we've been having a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been a blast. And I think I just did my year in review. We're probably on the last leg of this campaign. It might last another year if they keep moving as fast as they are moving. It'll probably last about another year or so. So many interesting things that they've hit, which is really cool. But that's kind of where it was. And then I just started, that's when about a year into that, I was like, hey, maybe I could do a YouTube channel talking about like the stuff that I do for DM stuff. And
sure.
Then I started doing reviews, and now I'm here.
There you go. And now you're in the big time, because we have 3 people in my chat room.
Hi, everyone.
And I promise you, one of them is a bot.
One of them's a bot.
Because it's my bot.
We're being spied on. It's fun.
Wait, 4 or 5. Oh my!
Hey, look at that.
It just jumped.
There we go. So we're the big time.
Hey,
no, but it's been fun, and I I've just had a blast, especially the last 8 months or so, where I started doing live stream interviews and talking with some folks, and like daring to like say, "Hey, do you want to talk to me?" My little peon channel, and people have been awesome. I mean, I people I would have never expected to have one-on-one conversations with and have connections with. Were so gracious to come on. I got to talk to Doug Shute, Victory Condition Gamings. He works for Free League. I got to talk to the creator of Pirate Borg. I got to talk to Matt Finch. I got to talk to Rico from Two Little Mice and his partner, Simone. And I got to talk to Kelsey Dion. That was absolutely amazing. It was so much fun to have these conversations and chat with all these people, and to know that they all kind of work in this neat little community, and technically they're competitors, but they're always helping each other out.
Oh yeah,
which is so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, Matt Finch is one of the people that really helped Kelsey out when she was getting started with the Shadow Dark, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
and
I interviewed Kelsey. I've kind of hung out with Matt in the bar at North Texas RPG Con.
Is that where you? I saw your Kelsey interview. I thought it was really good.
Yeah. We my wife and I go there every year. She was sick this past year, but so there went $100 something bucks. But anyway, we already had the badges, but what do you do? But and it's good she stayed home because she was sick.
But, there's no need to pass that stuff around. Just nasty.
This is her voice. There's something seriously wrong.
I hate it.
Yeah. So anyway, but North Texas is a great con. I wish you could come down. I know that's quite a hike for you. I get it. But,
it's a little bit of a trek.
Yeah.
So, but Kelsey's phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about her.
She's so bright and bubbly and just willing to answer any question you've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was the neat thing for me with Kelsey, because she does have that. She's very charismatic. She has a disposition that is incredibly kind, and patient, and there's a genuine warmth and interest. She's very interested in other folks and folks who are talking with her, and that all comes across whenever you see her on her streams. And so I watched the video that was about the artwork of Shadow Dark, and in her bubbly, kind, gentle voice, she goes, and the cover art's done by someone who she gave the name, who's really known for their death metal covers, and it's in this bubbly, kind of sing-songy tone. And I was like, okay, I immediately love this person and I want to talk with them. And I actually when we were doing the interview, I said, okay, Kelsey, here's the deal. This is why I wanted you on. And can I tell this story before? And she's like, oh my gosh, that's hysterical. You have to say that story. Because it was great. So she's phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about her.
When it was announced that she was going to be at the convention, I immediately jumped in and I've got to get in a game. They were all full.
Yeah, she's celebrity status at this point.
Just fill up every one of them. But we did this interview, and she had a game coming up in 45 minutes.
Okay,
and so we finished the interview, and I said, you don't suppose there's an empty seat at your thing? She said, no, everybody's here. They've all been talking to me for the past hour.
Right.
Said, I don't know how this convention feels about adding people. And I said, well, I come here every year and we're always adding people. She said, well, we're going to be in this room. Just show up in 15 minutes. And I got to play.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. So it was wonderful.
That's really cool.
I suggest interviewing Jeffrey Talanian if you can.
Okay. Don't know the name.
Hyperborea.
Oh, you know what? I had the PDFs and I just had my daughter get me that for Christmas.
Oh, it's such a good book.
It's real. The artwork is wild.
Yes.
The setting is really cool. But I haven't wanted to review it because I want to get the physical book to plow through it. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
I have played the game exactly 3 times, and Jeffrey was my DM for all 3 of them.
Oh, neat.
Because
okay.
he comes to our convention every year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
I did reach out to him at the beginning of the OGL crisis, and he was like, "Yeah, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with that."
Yeah, he was. He. I talked to him at the convention. I didn't get to interview him, but I asked him real quick, how he said, man, he said, I was pulling my hair out. And he's
seriously.
But yeah, it was, that was a mess. And, Kelsey thought she was going to have to rewrite her whole book.
I mean, a Basic Fantasy, they were ready to.
They did it.
Well, they did, but they didn't have to do as much as they thought they had.
Right. But the cool thing about it was everybody in the community just said, okay, I've got this bit. And yeah, I've got this chapter. Okay, I'm going to take this. I'm going to do all the monster conversions. I'm going to take this. And
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because I remember when it broke, I actually messaged Chris. I'm like, Chris Gonderman, who created the game.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Chris, what does this mean for Basic Fantasy? And his first take was nothing. They can't. We're out there. It's OGL. We're not going. And about 3 days later, he put out this missive because he had talked to legal saying, if they revoke this, you're in trouble, even though it should not have been able to be revoked. And so that's when the thing started. He put that out, and I am not as active in the Basic Fantasy community as I should be or want to be. And it's partly because it's all done on forums, and it means I have to go somewhere in order to do it.
Yep.
There's a really good reason for that, because Chris physically has the server for the forum. So he has literally everything. He doesn't have to worry about someone pulling the plug on their sitting. He has literally every thread of the development of Basic Fantasy, and it's in his possession.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big deal. It's a really good idea, but my brain needs to readjust to get in there. By the time I got in to figure out what to do, I was lost because so many people had jumped into the process to rewrite this game. It was phenomenal. I literally, it was everything they say that an open source project should be. In that moment was like reality.
Yeah. Those guys are hardcore.
I had suggested one change, which was instead of referencing sections, reference the page number. It was like, you can look at this section. It's like, can we just reference the page number? And there was one section. It's like, all right, we'll do it. So they put it in. So I have I contributed one thing to fourth.
That's cool. That's plenty.
It's just it was kind of cool. I would have loved to have done more, but everything I wanted to work on was already done by the time I got in.
Hello, Grimwood Games.
Oh, hey, Dave.
Welcome.
Dave's awesome. You should talk to him sometime. He's creating. He has a setting, urban fantasy. I got to play at PAX U, and is developing a system for it that I actually have the playtest version in my in our Discord chat, and I have to keep mentioning it so I remember that it's there. So Dave, I will download it and read it. I promise. I'm going to do that. But Dave is phenomenal.
Cool.
So, yay!
I have a question for you, going back to when you started.
Sure.
And I asked this of everybody who was playing in the 80s, but it kind of especially applies to you. How did the Satanic Panic affect you?
All right. So when I was first playing, I had a couple of teachers at school, like, do your parents know you play this? So that would have been middle school. I'm like, my parents bought me the game. Like, what's wrong with you? So that was that part.
Mm-hmm.
gets more interesting for me because I kind of have a faith conversion in high school. I was on the 5-year plan in high school. So I did not do well in public high school. I just have one of those, I'm very introverted, naturally, had a really hard time navigating adolescence, which probably a lot of people who play role-playing games have a similar experience. But my kind of public high school career got ended with me getting the snot kicked out of me in a locker room fight.
In what?
In a locker room fight with someone who outweighed me by probably 150 pounds. I'm not the wisest person on the planet. And so I actually transferred out, retook my junior year. I went up to Lancaster Mennonite High School. So I'm in Lancaster now. And Mennonites. And I had a faith conversion, which is, awakening. And that was started a whole new journey. And, part of that shift in identity, I stepped away from the game. There was the tail end of the satanic panic that was hitting in the Mennonite community at the time in Lancaster, because I wanted to run a Gamma World campaign in the dorm because I was dorming out there. And they're like, no, we can't allow that. I'm like, okay. And as part of that shift of identity, I got rid of my books for that. Looking back at it now as an adult, I'm like, what the devil? And actually, I destroyed a good portion of them. And looking back as an adult, I'm going, I'm an idiot. As a 17-year-old kid who had been through severe trauma, and was trying to find a new way of life, it was kind of a necessary step at the time for me, even though I like to go back and punch myself in the face.
You live, you learn.
At that point, you live, you learn. Not something I would recommend doing today. Not something I would repeat. But that was a step that I kind of took at the time. By the time I get into like year 2000, I got married in 97. Like I'm ready to get back into the system, into the game. We moved here in 2003. We were at a mall. There was a game store at the mall at the time in Cherry Hill. It was a Warhammer game, which I have never played, and I don't really have interest in miniatures because I'll throw them around the room. And I am a klutz. Here, be careful with this. I'm going to break it.
That's my wife.
But my daughter was 3. I'm pushing her out the mall. We had been here for about 2 months. It's maybe 6 months because it was right before Christmas, I remember. And this is back like 2003, like there's still landlines. And so they're in this Warhammer setup is all set up, and they weren't playing Warhammer 40K. It was literally Warhammer. I think it was Warhammer Fantasy.
Right.
And the guy's got this 50-foot long phone cord stretched across this room. It is probably like threatening to like decapitate 4 people because not entirely legal, right? And we're walking through the stroll. I'm goes, Jen, I need to go in here. It's my wife. And I was like, I need to go in here. I just need to see what this scene is like anymore. And she was like, all right, go ahead. So I walk in. And I'm pushing my 3-year-old daughter in the stroller, and the guy in the phone goes, well, it worked, but now you've pissed them all off because you just killed a 3,000-year-old elf. And I remember so clearly my 3-year-old daughter turns around and looks up at me as like, what on earth are we doing here? And I just looked down and it's like, it's okay, honey. Daddy's among his own kind. And that was... I was already ready to get back in. Had I had funds at the time, I probably would have jumped back in at that point and found time. But the funny thing is this. So I did not successfully get rid of all my books because on the shelf up here, if I can get the right one. Yep, there it is. So on the shelf up here. Apparently, what I had not gotten rid of, I had given to one of my friends because it was, I get his books, and he held on to this. It's my personal 2nd edition player's handbook. I had found, because I wanted this cover. This is the one that I had when I was a kid. And I found one at a used bookstore, and I put it on Facebook. I said, hey, look, I'm recollecting all these things. And my friend Mark, goes, well, do you want yours? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he went, well, here. And he put a picture. I don't know if you can see it. That's my signature.
Yep.
When I was like 16 years old. He's like, you can have yours back. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I heard my childhood. I'm like, how? I have no recollection of giving this to him. But not only did he have that, he has my Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yeah.
So I have my second edition DMG, mine, like my from growing up, which was so cool. So I have some of the relics of the past have survived.
Okay, so opposite end of this spectrum here.
Mm-hmm.
I still own every RPG book I ever bought.
Yeah, I mean, I would normally be you.
I have dice that are almost as old as my wife.
Okay. Do you have? Well, you never played Basic Expert, so you don't have the blue set that you had to use the crayon, right?
I have the red set. I bought it in the store
one that
by
came
itself.
from. Okay. Yeah.
With the yellow crayon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my buddy Mike has that same set. Well, the only one of those that he keeps with him, it's always in his dice bag. It's the D20, and it's basically a ball.
It's a marble at this point.
And he calls it Old Pinky because it doesn't even look red yet. I mean, anymore, right? And he always takes it out. He says, well, here's Old Pinky. And he puts it down. And Mike is the best friend of my first DM, and he was my second DM, and he is also still in my game. So
that's cool that you have that group that's been going for so long.
Old grognards. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Sit around and grumble about these kids today. That's good.
That's it.
Which is literally what the word means, right?
Get off of my lawn.
Old man yelling at clouds. Yeah. That's me now. Yay.
If I was actually going to scream, get off of my lawn, I would have plenty of opportunities to do it. But we are not that family. There's kids all over the neighborhood, and they have a basketball goal across the street, and they'll be out there with like 5 basketballs, and they're bouncing off each other and into our yard and everywhere. And sometimes I'll walk out there and there's a basketball up by the front porch and just toss it across the road. It's not a big deal.
There you go. We used to play flashlight tag. Yeah. Like we would play flashlight kick the can, which is like a whole nother level. But I can't. I don't know what, like, as an adult, I'm like, we did that because we were running through the entire neighborhood. I'm like, how on earth? Like nowadays, we would have had the cops called on us like every day.
Oh yeah,
but we were out every night of the summer, just running around until like 11 o'clock. There was screaming.
There was a story on the news about, it was before the pandemic, but not much before. There were these 2 kids who, I think they'd gone to the movies or someplace, but they were walking home, and it was one of them was like 12 and the other one was 10. Just boy and girl walking home, and someone driving by saw them, called the police. The police showed up, like stopped the kids, and what's wrong? Why are you out here by yourself? Just walking home from this, and they like took them home and like knocking on the door, and mom's going, what? They were 8 blocks away at the grocery store. What do you want?
That's like the funny thing. Cause like, so Stranger Things comes out, right?
Yeah. And
like folks, my daughter's age and millennials as well, were like, that show's completely unrealistic. And they weren't talking about the monster and the interdimensional creature. They were talking about the fact that these kids are riding around like in a 10 square mile area on bicycles, and no one has a clue where they are. And I'm like, that literally is my childhood.
Yeah.
Like we were at places my parents had no clue. I also don't know how I'm alive, but we were just, my range was about 8 miles. We could go anywhere.
I had a little motorcycle. I was 14, and I would ride from my house in town, out of town, 9 miles to my best friend's house.
Yeah.
And just park the bike, and we'd hang out all day and then come back.
Yeah. No one ask any questions.
No.
That's weird. Come back when the lights are on.
Yeah, and then no cell phones, no way to get in touch. Just,
Yep. Just out. I'm going here. I'll see you maybe.
Yeah. And when I was a senior in high school, my best friend, my two best friends, Patrick and Susan, we could have been 3 boys or 3 girls. It would have made no difference.
Right.
But we're 2 guys and a girl.
Okay.
Made no difference. We would hang out at Susan's house on a Friday night until 8 or 9 in the morning playing cards.
Uh-huh.
And
yeah,
her parents were right there. It's not like anything was going on, but people, what's going on at Susan's house? Oh, wouldn't you like to know? And we just go on about our business and let them think what they wanted.
Playing spades. Leave us alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good times.
So how does your hobby affect your job now, or does it at all?
It's a really interesting question. So I have actually, we had our church roof replaced last year,
mm-hmm.
and we were raising half the money to have 50% of the down payment, and then we were going to take a loan out for half of it. And I was actually going, well, I don't know what I can do to help with fundraising, because it's not really my skill set. I'm terrible at the ask, which is when you think about pastors, like I'm the opposite of that. like if you want to give me money, I'm like, I no, please don't. So I'm like, what can I do? And so I came up with well, we're going to do one-shot days. And so we did 3 one-shot fundraisers in my church building, raising money for the church. And we raised I think between the 3 of them, we raised $2,000 total, which is not bad. And I was going to do a 4th this fall, and it fell apart because it was just a terrible weekend. And all the players were like, we want to come, but we are already doing this. Mm-hmm. It was fun. There were 2 tables at the first one, 3 at the second, 4 at the third. I ran Easy D6 for all 3 of them that we had, which is a great system. And I was keeping up with the Hallmark movie tropes. So they were all Hallmark movies based at different holiday concepts. I had one of the guys ran Morkborg. So it's like, you're running Morkborg at a church?
Wow.
Yeah, whatever. So that was fun. And my daughter played in that game, and things were a little interesting. He came back the next 2 times he played Savage World. I've had someone ran Mutants and Masterminds. 5e's been run. So it was really nice. And now, in April of this year, we're actually going to run another fundraiser, and we're going to split the proceeds between our church's roof fund. So we like to have a space where we can do things. And we have AA meets here, and the local music school has all their concerts here. The director is now a member of the church. The relationship didn't start out that way. And we have an immigrant community there. This is their church home. So we want to have this space for people to be here. So raising money for it's important to me. But because it's a bit more of intense, we don't want to just do it for us. And so there's a food pantry that's right down the street, literally the next block over, at the Methodist Church, that we support a lot. And so half the proceeds are going to go to that as well, which should be fun. So that's going to be a 3-day event. And I've got 5, obviously 5e's always going to be played. So 5e's played. I'm going to run Easy D6. Someone's going to run a couple of folks from the channel who are channel patrons or they're subscribers. I don't think they're patrons, but who are really become real good friends online. They're driving down from Avenue Studios. They're going to play Open Legend. What else is Jacob going to run? Jacob's running 3 systems, which I think is going to be great. I need to go back and look at my sheet. A couple of folks from my Monday group are going to be running games. So that'll be fun. And that'll go Friday night, all day Saturday, and then Sunday afternoon. So when the church clears out at 2 p.m., we'll have our final session. Cool. So that's cool. And it was interesting you should ask that, because today I literally started writing my sabbatical proposal. I'm going to apply for a sabbatical grant, exploring the nature of play, game design. So I want to actually travel and go to a bunch of different game designers and talk with them about the process and what goes into it, and also get their background in. So my take is talking about the spirituality of gaming. Because there kind of is a spirituality to gaming, not dogma, but there's a spirit. You're working through some stuff. As a lot of times when you're playing these games, which is why a lot of modern players want to have things like safety tools, because you're touching on things that are really serious to them. But I want to explore that and write a game to talk about how to use it to guide spiritual development, so people can kind of see their relationship to other folks who might be on a similar journey to them, and how you navigate that. And the struggle for me is you can't do that and teach dogma. So because if you can't teach a game and do a bait and switch and say, no, we're really doing this, like, you can't do that.
Right.
First off, I don't want to gamify dogma. Back in the 80s, one of the Christian responses to D&D was this game called Dragon Raid, which, interestingly enough, when I was going through the pastor's office when I got here, the previous pastor one of the previous pastors had Dragon Raid and left the box. So I literally have the original box of this game, which is, I mean, it's not a terrible system, but here's one of the weird things. So one of the big objections to the satanic panic, and they're doing magic and they're calling up demons, like, okay, which is nonsense and it's ridiculous.
Yes.
Well, one of the game mechanics for Dragon Raid was that in order to cast spells, you needed to memorize scripture. But you go, okay, well, that's a great memorization tool. That's magic.
Yes.
Like, that's literally like that's so you objected to fictional make-believe Fantasyland magic in order to do it for real.
Yep.
So I remember reading the system going, yeah, that's, and I talked to one of my friends who teaches, like, this is magic, right? He's like, oh yeah, that's magic.
Yep.
Like, you don't do that. And so that's part of the struggle. Like, I can't write a game and have it be a game and teach dogma, because then you're teaching people the wrong lesson about stuff. Right. So it's going to be more about wrestling with the ethics of spirituality, how you kind of perceive yourself and you interact with people in the world. And I would use that as a teaching tool, and that could be used by folks from any faith persuasion or no faith persuasion to kind of teach people out, but I would teach it from a particularly Christian perspective. So, but that's how it affects my job nowadays, because it keeps my brain working in strange and wonderful and weird ways.
Sure. So, I think it's easier to teach sometimes it's easier to teach something when you're talking about something else.
Yeah.
So you could have a character in the game wrestling with their faith, with their deity or whatever, and then and it doesn't have to be exactly the same things somebody's going through, but you can see the parallels. That works. And on that note, my wife has approached me about designing an Easy D6 campaign for her to use at school for some of the kids who are having less than stellar home life.
Yeah.
So
please do.
Yeah. So what we figured out is, if we get to do it, the characters in game will be in a school, and we're just going to use the school as the map of the school. So that way it's very easy to just say, well, go down to the science room over here, and you're going to go to pod A or whatever, but they are a mystery club, a crime club.
Okay.
And they solve like it's more like the
Scooby-Doo gang.
Yeah. But like they're going to sit in the classroom, and the teacher gives them this problem to work out, and here are the clues and whatever, and they figure it out. And then something actually happens.
Yeah.
Somebody's backpack is missing and their insulin is in it, or something like that. I'm just
so like high stakes stuff, but not
right.
Huge
Not
drama.
not
Gotcha.
there's a we are on lockdown. There's a active shooter on campus. We're not going to do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
But yeah, it's I can't find my insulin. It's whatever it is. That wouldn't be it because their insulin wouldn't be in their backpack. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
So then they actually solve
the mystery,
the crime, right? The mystery, and it. I want to make sure when we put the characters together that each of them has something they're good at and they have something they're not good at that someone else is good at, because then it lets them, I can't get in this locker. Oh, I know how to do that. Whatever. They start helping each other.
Yeah, Easy D6 is probably the perfect system for that too. Just the boons and the banes, and you're all set. It's so easy.
Somebody to play it in 10 minutes. So,
I mean, I taught my church treasurer how to play it. He killed a dragon his first session. It was great.
Oh, cool! Thank you. By the way, Grimwood Games said I'm running my new system at your.
He is. That's right. Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
So Dave ran Grimwood City with us at PAX, and he was using EZD6 as the engine. Oh. And now he's writing. And Dave, if you put in chat, it's a D12 based system, right? So I'm a fan of any system that can use D12s because it's a missile weapon, which makes me happy.
I love D12s.
They're so great. I mean, they're just going to hurt you if you hit somebody with it. It's wonderful.
Have you heard of a game called Coyote and Crow?
I have the PDF. I've read it. I have not done a review for it yet. It's a really interesting system. And the D12 dice pool is pretty cool.
Yes. My wife and I backed it, and we backed an extra book which went to our reservation, which is about 5.5 hours south of us. But
okay,
yeah. So it's on their it's in their library now.
Yeah, it's an interesting setting. I thought they did a good job with it. So
I love the fact that the map is North America, but it's what we would think of as upside down.
Upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So here's what I want to know, because I'm fascinated by this when I talk to other gamers, and especially if I can't play a game with them immediately.
Okay.
How do you run a game session? What is your standard procedure? I mean, how do you got everybody sitting at the table? How do you start the session?
Usually do a recap.
Okay.
So I have done it. So I use Scabbard for my campaign management, which is a really nice online system, which is actually how Dave and I met each other. And so that's nice. And so what I'll do is during session, I'll be just jotting down like notes, like this happened, this happened, this happened. And then I'll go back because I love to write. And so I'll go and write a narrative of how it happened. A descript, like more like Silmarillion narrative, like this happened. No dialogue or anything. Although I have done that in the past. I've actually written it as a short story. When something epic happens, I'll write a short story of the session, or at least the encounter, which is fun. And I'll start out with the recap. And here's where you are. What are you guys going to do? Is usually what I end up doing. And it depends. The system really depends on how I prepare for it. So with basic fantasy and with Castles and Crusades, when I was running that, and to 5e to a little extent, although some of the stuff that I like to do is not really, it's all hand waved in 5e. I will prepare the next a significant portion of the next leg of whatever journey that they're on. So the players always determine where they're going. They're directing the narrative, even if they don't think they are. So I'll follow their lead and I'll develop from what they do. So I'll go out. So if I think they're going this way, that's where we're going. So for like basic fantasy right now, I took a couple weeks off and spent the better part of, of 2 weeks just populating a small hex crawl. So it's not like there's something in every hex, but they're going somewhere.
Right.
They have to find a place. So I put stuff along the path that I figured they would find, and then I was spending time making wandering encounters or random encounters. Some of them were helpful, some of them just atmospheric, some of them were deadly. And that's the type of preparing that I do. And Castles of Crusades, very similar feel to it. And so I would prepare very much the same way for that. In fact, I was actually bummed that Castles of Crusades collapsed when it did, because I had a really cool dungeon that we're just about to go on. I'm like, so I have to figure out how to pull that into basic fantasy now, and kill everyone. It'll be great. So that's kind of how I do that. 5e was interesting because I would do the same thing. I would work with all the players and I would work with what they were going on. And I remember right about the last leg of the campaign, I had set up, there was just an atmosphere. They had gone into this hidden valley, that it was like the last remnant of an old empire. It was completely cut off from the rest of reality. And it was actually set up that way to imprison this god, who wanted to destroy the world. And they imprisoned and actually created an ice age in the rest of the world, which caused the wider empire to collapse. So for me, it was fun to write, right? But when they went in, everything was being destabilized, and a couple of things that destabilized. There was an Eye of the Deep that had come in, and that was starting to kind of take over this little central sea, freshwater sea in the middle of the valley, and a giant blue dragon had flown in and was starting to set up its own little fiefdom and was demanding tribute. And so they got caught up in the Eye of the Deep, trying to take over stuff. And I kept on saying, here's the map. Like, there's elves over here. Like, you can go south this way. They had to get to the far end of the valley. Like, there's elves over here, and there's plains in between. And I actually had, from Kobold Press, one of their games, they have like an elephant centaur. And so there were going to be tribes of them in the middle of the plains. They were awesome creatures. They could tramp you. They're so cool. And they were territorial. So I was like, yeah, we're going to have a tribe of these over here. And I just kept on expecting. It's like, yeah, we're done with this. We're going to go this way now. But they, for whatever reason, like, well, I guess we have to go up. They kept on saying, I guess we have to go to the dragon. I guess we have to go this way. We have to go up here and deal with. I'm like, no, he's just atmosphere. If anything, why are you going towards this giant dragon that's running? Like, what are you doing? But there's a mentality in 5e that if something is shown, you're supposed to deal with it.
Because they think, oh, the DM put it here, we must be able to beat it.
And and I actually had one of my players that actually said the same thing. Yeah, if it's there, I should be able to kill it. I'm like, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. And so that was something. And they, at that point, they were all like 8th level. They could have taken that dragon out, no problem. But it would have been a fun fight. So I had, okay, you're going to the dragon. So while they're doing this, I set up a whole web of triggers and all these things that could, like, so the world would change depending on what decisions they made. And there's a cool app called Scapple, which is, it's not a flow chart and it's not a mind map. It's like a hybrid of both. So it's actually the closest piece of software that I've ever seen to the way that I took notes in college. And so I created this strange map of interrelationships and different triggers and if this and that. And it's a complete nightmare. Nobody on the planet could read it but me, which is exactly the same way that most of my friends in college read my notes. And so we got to they were following this path and they're going up here and they're getting to the point where, okay, we're going to get sucked into this battle because there was the dragons demanding tribute. The towns from that area were all rebelling because they thought the empire was going to sell them out. The empire was coming up, and here what it was is that the empire and the rebels were trying to draw the dragon out. It was all a sham. They were trying to get the dragon to join the fight and attack them. And so I was going to have them take out, and they would have to take out the emperor that I've actually modeled after Emperor Cartagia from Babylon 5 because it's the greatest show ever. And actually someone said, "You're doing Cartagia." I was like, yes. But they got to that point where they was just about to trigger kind of the final map of the whole thing. And again, they had set all the the markers going through. I still had the map. It is a mess. And they went, yeah, we're not going to do that. I'm like, okay. Like it's like, fine. Like, yes, go do what you want to do. Fine. We're not going to do that. We're just going to walk away. And they went away and they found a bar or a tavern and they spent the night. And when we were there, one of them goes, I'm going to go around and just look for some people. I'm like, okay. And long story short, they met the Golden Girls.
Oh, that's excellent.
Like, sure, there's these women right there. And one of them is, shut up, Blanche. And they're like, are we talking to the Golden Girls? Yeah. And Blanche is like trying to get him to get the character to go up with him to her room and stuff. It was like you met the Golden Girls. And so they scrapped all the plans, but they got to meet the Golden Girls. And so that was kind of fun. But that was like, I've had that intense prep. And then I have Numenera. And Numenera is like, okay, I have these locations. Here are some NPCs, and here's the problem. And the players do something, and the world adjusts. And that was our last session on last Tuesday, which was so much fun because I have these locations, and they're like, I highlight them. So like, okay, let's go look at that. And we're making up the plot as we go on. And it's neat because the plot is all built off of their character backgrounds that come with the character creation in Numenera. And that's been a lot of fun. But there's cool, and I keep telling, they're amazed that they have this much power over the game.
Right.
And one of the cool things is they got into this town, which is it's known as to be I created it just for them. It's known to be a launching point for folks who are adventurers to go out into the ninth world, into the unpopulated areas and try to uncover Numenera, bring it back and do all sorts of stuff. And they were literally in this place. It's literally called the Wharf. It's a landlocked city, but because it's the start of all these journeys, they call it the Wharf. They find a reputable inn. They go in, have a weird conversation with the owner for whatever reason, and they get put into room 13B. And they go, this hotel's got 13 floors? Like, now it does. So sure, it's got 13 floors. So they're 13. And Numenera, you can do stuff like this in Numenera because it's supposed to be weird. It's like medieval fantasy with high technology bouncing all over the place. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, it's got 13 floors and there's an elevator, there's a lift. You can't call it an elevator. You're supposed to use off words. And it lifts you up to the 13th floor. And here you are. And they ended up, go ahead.
My players still can't believe I build my world a session at a time.
I do a little more than that, but it's fun. But it's really neat. But they're so they're on the 13th floor for that. Had a weird conversation. They just I got to go talk around and see what people are talking about. So I'm like, all right, you see two guys in a corner and they're talking about a business deal. I'm like, okay, this is shady. Let's go figure out what this is. And so they wanted to go through and they tried to weasel their way into the thing and failed miserably. So they get kicked out. So I'm like, well, I want to bring these guys back. So I determined that one of the two is actually an undercover cop who's trying to deal with the same problem they're in town to deal with. And so that's the encounter for next time. But the problem that they wanted to deal with became aware of their presence when they walked in and sent a bunch of assassins to kill them there in their hotel room, which is now 13 stories in the air. And during the attack, one person determined that he was going to charge someone and try to tackle him out the window. Absolutely. Please do this. I said, okay. And here's the cool thing about Numenera is that one of the ways that you can steer a narrative is that you can throw a GM intrusion at it.
Right.
So you give an experience point to a player or two experience points to the players, one they keep and one they give to somebody else who does something cool. I said, okay, here's the deal. You do this and you succeed. I'm throwing an intrusion at you because you're going out the window. And I promised at that point, I'm not going to kill you because that's a cheap. I'm going to intrude and kill you. So I won't kill you. It'll just be a drama type thing. It's like, oh, absolutely. I'm like, okay. So he gets an experience point. He gives it to one of the other players. And as he's jumping out the window, the player goes, wait a minute. Can I spend an intrusion here? Because it's not his initiative. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have a one of my ciphers, which are ciphers are basically single use magic items. They're like jury rigged ancient technology, right? I have a gravity nullifying spray. So as he goes out the window, I'm going to realize what he's doing. I'm going to spray him with it. Like, oh yeah, absolutely. So he gives me back his experience. Excuse me. He gives me back his experience point, and he launches this guy out the window. And what I say is, because I didn't even bother looking up how this cipher was supposed to work. I'm like, okay, so now gravity has no effect on you, so you go straight out on the 13th floor and just coast out. And the guy loses his handle on you. He plummets to his death. But you're now like 30 yards off away from the hotel, and you can't do anything. You're just floating in midair until the cipher wears off, and then things might get really interesting for you. They're like, this is great. So he determines that he sleeps naked. Perfect. So he's not only is he floating, like he's floating around in midair. The things we do at the pastor's house when we're playing a game. And he's going to start using his ciphers. And we're going, where are you keeping your ciphers? You don't have any clothes on. He's like, we're not going to talk about where I keep my ciphers when I'm using them. Okay, great. So he has two. One of them is a far speaker. And players can only have two ciphers at a time, but you're supposed to give them out freely so they can just use them.
Right.
It's one of the things that old school players sometimes balk at it because it feels too video gamey, but I love it. And so his far speaker is that he can project his voice and like within line of sight, and it'll sound that he's right there. So he projects this out, and I say, well, it's so far, it actually sounds like it's coming from the body that flew from the ground. It's like, okay. While this is all going on, however, another character has a focus. So are you familiar? Have you looked at Cipher System much?
Some.
Okay. Yeah. So like all your characters are a sentence, right? They're an adjective, noun, who verbs.
Right.
The verb is the focus, and that's kind of like their real special significant abilities. And one of them bears a halo of fire. Happens to be my daughter. So she's going, okay, I'm threatened, so I'm going to ignite on fire.
Okay.
Sure, in your hotel room. Yeah. Okay. Well, the hotel room is now on fire. And it's like, okay. And so like the bed is starting to burn, and they're trying to deal with assassins. And the one guy's like floating out in space 20 yards off the road, or 30 yards off the road. I forget what I said. So he starts activating his far speaker, and he's out of breath, and he looks around, and he sees the room's on fire, and he starts shouting, "Murder! Fire! 13B! Murder! Fire! 13B!" And this is all people are hearing, and everyone at the table goes, "Oh, that's our group name." So their group name is now Murder Fire 13B. And I created a logo for it. It's just like murder. Like I learned how to make fire like be flames. And so it's Murder Fire 13B. So that's their group name. It's like, yeah, we're Murder Fire 13B. Maybe you've heard of us? No, because they literally just got there. But that's their group name.
That's excellent.
That's awesome. My basic fantasy group, their name is the Barefoot Marauders. But bear is spelled their name Barefoot is spelled BEAR. Because one of their first encounters, they encountered a black bear, and they were attacking it, and they could not hit this thing worth their life. It's one of those things where I was like, I wish I had an escalation die where they could have done it, because it was really painful. Finally, someone scored a hit, and they did 1 point of damage.
Oh, God.
It was like 5 rounds of combat. Everybody missed. Like the bear was missing. They were missing. It was like the worst things that could happen in old school D&D combat all happened in this one thing. And they did 1 round of combat. I was at this point, I'm just tired. I'm like, okay, you hit it in the foot and it runs away. And so they're now the Barefoot Marauders. I actually sell a mug with their logo on it, which is a barefoot, and there's an arrow popping out of one of the pinky toes. That's
funny. Kadine says, we have a naked man floating 30 yards outside the window, and my daughter's on fire. What a day.
My daughter, yeah. It was fun. And then, he used the other cipher then, which is like give people a word of command. And so he commanded peace. Actually, no, I think that might have, but he's an Arcus. I think that might be one of his type abilities. So he actually got the people to throw a rope to him and pull him down. It's like, okay, I got to get back up now, and he just runs off. He actually, and the player voices him like Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, that's funny.
But his command voice he does is James T. Kirk.
All right.
He goes, but you must help me. So
that's excellent.
So it's a trip. So so Numenera is the most free flowing, and then the more kind of old schooly I get, the more prepared in the future I get a little bit more. That's a really long answer for a very simple question.
That's right. Have you ever played a World of Darkness game?
I don't even know what that is.
Well,
wait. Is that the werewolf version of Vampire the Masquerade?
Well, all of them are World of Darkness. So
okay.
There's Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and Mage the Ascension, and Changeling the Dreaming, and Mummy the something, and Hunter the something. And I don't know all of them, but we play Mage the Ascension and Werewolf the Apocalypse together in my game, Metal Gods. And I'm always curious about how people think of a campaign that they're running and how long it lasts and what is long, because my first Metal Gods, this is Metal Gods 3. There's a story behind that, and I'm not going to get into all of it, but I started it in 1995 and it ended in 2006.
It's a good run.
And that was Metal Gods 1 and 2 mashed together, because in a 4-month period, my 3 players independently all accepted new jobs in Boston and moved.
Oh, that's the worst.
They all left Fort Worth and went to Boston to different jobs. It was weird. But when I got new players, and the first one was my wife, girlfriend at the time, the new players had no idea what was going on. They had no reason to pick up any of this stuff that was
They're just
plot threads that were happening. And I thought, well, okay, I was kind of gonna get into like alternate realities and time travel and stuff anyway. So what if I just rewrite the first adventure and the second one, because they're really not connected. So you can just run one and then the other. It's kind of like a one shot and then another one shot that starts the campaign.
Uh-huh.
I'll just rewrite them for this year instead of when it was, because technology's changed a little bit. And we just started over.
Okay.
And so that became 2, but then it ended in 2006, and we did Chronicles of Darkness for 11 years, and that was one campaign.
Wow.
And I've started Metal Gods 3 in 2017. This is going to be 3 trilogies of 33 adventures each. So that's 99 adventures for a trilogy.
Jeez.
And we're gonna do 3 of those before the thing's over. So
Yikes.
I will be in my 70s when this ends. I'm 62 right now.
Gotcha.
I will be in my mid 70s when we're done with this. And
I
cannot wait for the next game. Every time it's coming up, oh my God, I can't wait for this. And this last game, I got 3 people to look at me like, what did you just do?
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
And I said, and that's where we'll end today. And they're going, no!
I love it. That's so great. Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, you have those stories of people who have been running campaigns for like 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
I think my ADD is a little too strong to do that. I get too bored. I'm like, I want to run this game now. That's always an interesting time. But 2.5 years for me is pretty good.
Most of my life running games, I've come up with an idea, and it's like, okay, I got this thing, and I can do this thing, and it'll start here, and then we can play with it a while before you get to the thing where it's going to really be a payoff. But the payoff for me would be 2 sessions later, 3 sessions. I just couldn't hold on to it any longer. So I made up my mind when I started this that that's not happening anymore.
Okay.
5 years ago at this point, I put an NPC in my game, and I did not know if they would take him seriously.
Okay.
He said he was a mage at one point, but he has had his avatar stripped away, so
Okay.
he has he cannot do anything. He's just a normal person. But he knows a lot of stuff, and he knows a lot of the stuff about the people in the area. So he was kind of a source of information, and he volunteered some of that information, and then they asked him for some of that information, and then he was just kind of around. And then one of my players decided, well, this guy, I mean, he knows a lot of stuff. Well, he should just like stay here with me and be my assistant. Well, he had a ranch, and so he made him basically the foreman of his ranch.
Okay.
And so then he's hiring his security for the ranch, and for his lab, and doing all this stuff, and
he's the big bad.
Yeah, and so there's this. They know that about 3 years ago they knew that there was somebody was leaking information.
Oh,
they couldn't figure out who it was, and they're talking, and the guy's right there, and he says, we've got a leak, and we've got a real leak here. There's a mole. It could be anybody. I mean, it could be me. And they go, yeah, you're right. We need to figure out who this is. And he says, well, all right, what we're going to do is I'm going to run a background check on everybody we've hired, and anybody who just doesn't check out like every box, they're gone, and we will rehire everybody, and I will check all of them. Okay.
And it was him.
And it was him.
Of course.
And when they found out it was him, oh my God. He was, when I say he was torn apart, that's putting it very mildly.
Yeah.
There's werewolves here, and they were pissed.
They were werewolfing.
Yes. He got blown up and then torn apart. Yeah, they did not like that guy.
That's awesome.
And I named him Stuart Marshall White because it kind of sounds like the guy who was running that cult.
Oh,
the Nikes.
Yeah.
Guy. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting times. I have never played a Chaosium game. I do not have one on my shelf. That is an oversight I need to correct.
White Wolf.
So, White Wolf?
Yeah, World of Darkness is White Wolf.
All right. I was actually thinking about picking up basic role playing just to see what the generic was like.
Yeah, Chaosium is basic role playing. Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest.
Oh,
yeah,
that's yeah. I thought for some reason Vampire was actually Chaosium too.
No, it is a D10 dice pool system.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. The mechanic on this is so simple. You get a dice pool together just based on what you're doing.
Yeah,
you roll some D10s, and there's a target number, and however many hit that number or higher, well, that's how many successes you got. That system works for every single thing you do in the game, period.
Oh, nice. Okay.
You now know how to play the game. I mean, it's that easy.
Yeah, so, I would like to play Vampire at some point, or any of those games at some point, just to see what it's like.
Yeah, he got blown up and torn apart, and not at the same time. That is correct.
Oh, somebody not at the same.
Yeah, K9. Yeah.
So
K9 can tell you my games get a little visceral.
Yeah, I'm more of a PG-13 type dude, but that's okay.
Well, some of it's PG-13. Some of it's a hard R. You like the new edition of Werewolf? No, I will not be purchasing it. I have no...
I am
Thank you,
missing
K9.
things. What am I missing?
Oh, geez. I said it sometimes it's a hard R, and he said no shit. So there you go. Anyway,
There you go.
I do not like the new edition of Werewolf. I will not be buying it. I already have the game that I want to play, and I've been running it one form or another for 28 years, almost 29. Okay. If there's anything I need, if there's some system that I need to create because technology or something has changed, I can write it. I don't really need the official Frankenstein update version of White Wolf farming out this to some new group and telling me how to run the game. So,
yeah. What did they change that you don't like?
They've changed some of the tribe names, and I get that. They've taken the word totem out, which, okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's now called a patron spirit.
Okay.
That makes more sense. Anyway.
Yeah.
There's a few things they've changed, and I'm okay with some of it, and some of it is just crap.
Okay.
Some of the mythology and the history of the tribes, no.
Oh, okay.
I don't care for it. And debating should pick it up, maybe not. Yeah, it's a wreck. It's werewolf. It's vampire with fur. So if you don't like vampire, you're probably not going to like this. And I can't.
So they shifted the tone of the game to where it's more like another game.
Yeah, vampire is a lot of people standing around,
brooding,
politicking at each other.
Yeah.
And I can't be bothered to care.
Gotcha.
And okay. My issue with the system is this. It's not the system. It's the people. I want to play it. I have never in 28 years played a single session of Mage or Werewolf as just a player.
Okay.
Vampire for furries. That's what I heard. Okay. I've had 2 people that I play with volunteer to run a World of Darkness game for me.
Okay.
They want to run Vampire.
That's because that's what everybody knows.
Yes, but it's also because they know I won't play it. And they don't have to run it.
It's an invitation.
Yes.
There you go. That's not nice.
No, it's not. And I love them both, but no.
Run a game. That was my thing. That was my top gift in my gifts you can buy DMs or GMs for Christmas or get for Christmas or holiday season. The number one was run a game for your GM. Just do a one shot and let them play. Get them on the other side of the screen, which would be so much fun. So
Grimwood Games says, I don't like Vampire. I did like the 4th edition. Thinking about running one in July for a few sessions. Okay. Look, if Vampire is your thing, then do it. You know, I'm all for anybody running the game they like.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I run a horror game. It doesn't really matter what the system is. I figure out a way to make it horror. So we're doing Shadow. Oh, did you mean Werewolf? Oh. Did like 4th edition of Werewolf. Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Yay.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm running Shadow Dark. When I stopped running D&D in 1995, I never finished my campaign.
Okay.
Because my players all moved.
Right.
And I got it. 4th edition Werewolf. I had just picked up Mage First Edition, and when I got through reading it, my mind was blown. And I said, I have to run this. And so
Okay.
I stopped doing D&D, and we were going to do this for a while, and then finish when D&D came back.
Okay.
And
Never went back to D&D.
And I just never did D&D again. And eventually I said, I don't really need it. But I was wrong, because I never got to the end of this thing. And I've been dropping little bits and pieces of it in everything I've run since then.
Oh, okay.
But, around 2000, 2005, somewhere there, I just swore that I would never run D&D again. And that morphed into, I'm never going to run any D&D derived game again. And then I changed my mind when Shadow Dark came out. So
Shadow Dark is good.
I'm going to finish my campaign.
Awesome.
We're going to start it and finish it. So we're going to do an abbreviated thing, but I'm literally going to destroy the planet they're on.
You're going to Mork Borg on them. Nice.
Yeah.
So
2 planets.
2 planets. You can destroy 2 planets. You're an overachiever.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that they figure this out and do it themselves, because it will just literally destroy everything and it's all over. Because if they don't, we're going to have a near miss, and then it'll take months for everyone to die.
That's a very pleasant thing.
Yes. So anyway. K9 says, yes, Jay, you make any system horror, often without trying, because the shit that your brain comes up with is the definition of nightmare fuel.
Yeah, see, I think my problem is I make anything a comedy.
Okay.
Because even if it's a dark comedy, it's usually a dark comedy, but I tend to make anything comedy. So that's the way my brain is wired. The world is silly, make it silly. So
I will quickly give you let me read you something. This is what he's talking about.
Okay.
Part of what he's talking about. So when I run my World of Darkness game, I start every session with a piece of fiction.
Okay.
And this is the kind of stuff that they get. This was from an adventure called Where Nobody Knows Your Name. Yes.
So
I don't know how to get this point across to you. There are things out there that want to kill you and want to eat you, and not necessarily in that order. You have to keep your eyes open and your head on a swivel if you want to survive these streets, little darling. This is the point I need you to understand. Those things, the ones I just told you about, they're the easy ones, the obvious ones. It's the regular guy walking down the street that's the real threat. The guy sitting across the table from you that you really got to watch out for. Because that's the guy that'll tie you down and torture you for weeks before he amputates your leg to have for his dinner and makes you watch while he eats it. That's who you need to look out for. The regular guy just sitting there talking to you. Just like we're doing right now.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, I'm not sleeping tonight. Thanks.
I've read a few of these, and my friend Herman, who was my first DM, I know that if Herman or Sean interrupts at some point to go, what? Or how did you even think of that? That I've done my job. I have set the mood for the day.
Yeah. Also, they're not going out with you at night anytime soon. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I've known Herman for 44 years. I think he can take it at this point.
You've already said that you play the long game, so that's
true. That Stuart Marshall White thing, I milked that for so long, and it felt so good. And I figured out how to do it. So if you want an idea of how to do this kind of thing, when you put any information about the character in your game for a session, don't put anything down there about the ulterior motive.
Oh, no.
You know what it is. Just don't give yourself any notes about it. Just play what you got.
Always fun.
But when they're off camera,
Oh, they're
they
doing all
can
sorts
do
of
other
nasty stuff.
things.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Yeah, I've got a couple of characters like that in a bunch of different games.
yeah,
They're fun.
yes. Oh God,
So
so
yeah.
fun.
But for your players, be afraid. Be very
Oh,
afraid.
they are. All I have to do is say the name Dalmanod, and everybody sits up.
Like, no.
Yeah, there's this
That's
thing
awesome.
in the World of Darkness. The Umbra is like deep space, but not really.
Okay.
And things that live out there are called Umbrood. So think of her as like a demon princess. And she's
Gotcha.
thousands of years old and just happens to be the arch enemy of one of my player characters.
Nice.
Because she killed his mentor right in front of him, but somehow he escaped being killed. And I realized about 2 months ago, and I looked at Sean and I said, "You realize that you're the boy who lived?" And he went, "Oh, crap."
Nice.
So, yeah.
Very nice.
But, yeah, it's a whole thing.
That's so much fun. Yeah, I am like the other, like, so I wrote a novel and self-published it, and the basis of the novel was that a kid gets sucked into the land or the realm of imagination
Hmm.
that finds itself under siege by copyright lawyers. That's the type of stuff that I do. Like, it's borderline absurdist. So there's always something serious going on, but it's always borderline absurdist. Like Terry Pratchett is like my
I
go-to.
like that.
Yeah.
Grimwood Games. Okay, past my bedtime. Thanks for the great
Yeah,
great
it's pretty much
enjoyment.
past my bedtime.
Looking forward to watching more Jay. Oh, well, thank you. Please come back.
So, Dave's
Is
awesome.
Is it past your bedtime?
I'm going to have to get off pretty soon.
Okay,
I was up.
cool.
I was up late last night watching the Eagles stink.
Oh yeah, were you?
That was painful.
I stopped.
It was just painful.
My wife and I, on Thanksgiving Day, about 6 years ago, just said, "You know what? We're done."
Yeah.
And we haven't watched a football game since. And it's not the football that's the problem. It's the brain injuries, the NFL doing nothing about it, and every week there's some new domestic violence thing.
It's an issue.
And
around here, it's like the Eagles are essentially the local religion.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you walk up, you say "Go Birds," and everybody's like, "Yeah, okay." It's like we know who we are. But now we're all angry. I was actually in a Discord chat with my Monday group last night watching the game. So my one friend and I are Eagles fans. Another guy is a Washington's fan, and he just goes, "You know what's really interesting about being in a chat with the Eagles fans is I never know whether or not you're losing or winning because you're always so angry." I'm like, "Oh yeah, is that normal? We don't understand. It's just the way we are."
I think Vikings fans are the same way.
Vikings fans they're bitter.
Yes.
So,
yeah, and Dallas is part of the reason for that.
Going back
about 4 decades, but yeah.
Yeah. No, we're not very happy with Dallas either. So, but it's always fun. But that's kind of our thing. So yeah, I'm going to need to sign off pretty soon.
That's cool.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, you are a blast. I really enjoyed your interview with the Dungeon Minister, and
he's a trip. Father Aaron's awesome.
He's great.
So, yep.
I'm gonna have to check out more of his YouTube channel.
Oh, his recaps are hysterical.
Yeah,
he is he has a giant chess piece that makes fun of him the entire time.
Yes.
And the worst thing is I'm watching these things happen and I'm angry at him because I didn't think of it first. I'm like, really? Like you went there? Darn it. So
your videos are a staple here on Sunday nights. So
I think I've seen a couple of your read throughs of them. So thank you so much for doing that. I really I appreciate it.
We watch a lot of videos on Sunday nights, and yours are perfect. Your skipping lunch videos not so much because they're very long.
Yes,
but,
they are very fun.
but I
So-
watch them.
Thank you.
So I'm anytime you got a new video, I'm right there. The best
Thank you
quote
so
I've
much.
heard about American sports is American sports hooligans are insane. You guys beat the piss out of each other when you support the same team. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's not wrong.
Maybe not so much in Philly. We're too busy terrorizing the other fans to care about that.
And in the city of brotherly shove.
Yeah, just don't put anything on the Rocky statue, and we'll leave you alone.
Yep.
You touched the Rocky statue, and that's what did you expect going to happen?
Yep.
So that's like
Yep.
it's a local Darwin Award around here.
Yes.
Fun times. Yeah, but yeah, we're insane in many different ways. So we're just a different group. So yeah.
So Wes, it was great talking to you. Great not being able to follow your directions and get this set up.
We did though. You got it. We're good.
You did most of it. So
all I did was create a chat room, and you got into or a video room, and you got into it, and you copied all the stuff. It was fine. You're good.
Yeah,
you're awesome.
I'll attempt it again. We'll see. I can do it with my friend Jonathan because he lives 2 miles from here, and
you can test it out.
Hey, you busy for the next 30 minutes? Let's try something.
I do that often with my friend Jameson, who lives in Minnesota.
Yep.
Like, Jameson, I need to call you. Okay. And we'll just figure something out, and we'll break it and fix it and break it and fix it. And that's what we do.
Cool thing about Jonathan being that close, because he plays in my game. The other day we were getting ready to start. I got a message from him. Hey, leaving right now. Okay. And I went ahead and got started because 5 minutes later he was in the house. So.
Don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I do have to say that's one thing I like about playing online is like it's the same thing that I did here. Put the little one down, come downstairs, and I'm ready to go.
Yep. So,
yep.
Anyway, well, thank you very much for being here.
And thank you for having me. This was fun. It was a nice chat. And thank you so much for watching the channel. I appreciate everyone who watches.
I love your channel. If you had a video a day, I'd watch it.
Thanks. I'm not doing that anytime.
No, I don't blame you. But
it's been fun. Listen, this has been a neat journey for me to do the YouTube.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met someone like you. I wouldn't have met people like Dave or some other folks. The folks who are coming to run games at Avenue Studios. If I didn't have DM Tales, I would never have encountered them. And so it's been a really cool journey. And it's the first time I ever tried to create like a brand for myself that I wasn't setting up for the church or another organization. And the fact that it's lasted this long and people seem to like watching it is really gratifying. And as far as midlife crises go, this is a winner.
Hey, you could do a lot worse.
It's a great midlife crisis.
Yep.
All right, man. Thank you. I really have to go.
Okay.
Have a wonderful night. I'm going to hang up this and I'm going to disappear from your stream.
All right.
So you have a great evening. Talk to you later.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Okay. Wow. Getting that set up was a nightmare. We started about 10 minutes before 7 and we've been on an hour 53 minutes. So yeah, it took a while. It was almost 7:30 before we got going. And then as K9 was kind enough, and I'm not being facetious here, kind enough to point out Wes's audio wasn't working. So we had a setting toggled wrong in there, and I fixed that. So anyway, yeah, this was good. I like that guy. Okay. Pretty sure I just missed it. You have a good one as well, K9. Thank you for being here. And I will hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye and bye bonds.